About 2.5 years after Death Stranding was first delivered on the PS4, and over a year and a half after its PC release, Kojima Productions brought the director's cut to PC. Was it worth the upgrade? Damn Skippy! I normally wouldn't be so definitive about this kind of thing, but this version of the game, especially when compared to the PS4 version that I'm familiar with, is a huge improvement. To be clear, I already love this game, but the director's cut gives you more tools and customization options to make it that much more satisfying. We'll start with the performance and graphics stuff. I played this at 1440, 60 frames per second. Graphically, it's just gorgeous, and it runs as smooth as you can imagine. Playing the game just felt great with this much fidelity and smoothness. I will say there was one major performance issue that came with the cutscenes. I would say about 75% of the time I started a cutscene, the frame rate would plummet and everything would just get super choppy. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to when it would happen. It just seemed like a random dice roll. Fortunately, it could be somewhat reliably resolved by pausing and unpausing, but the low frame rate narrows the window when your input registers, and I would have to mash the pause button like 10 times to actually pause the cutscene. And B, this didn't work every single time. Sometimes I would have to pause twice or 3 times to get back to my normal frame rate. But all that said, that's pretty much my only complaint about the performance. It runs beautifully otherwise. And it's got plenty of options for those who are into it. It's got ultra-wide support, DLSS, high frame rates, all that good stuff. One of the more interesting technical additions with the director's cut is Dualsense support. I personally just got one recently, and I haven't had the chance to make use of its unique features because those PS5s aren't getting any easier to get. So this was my first experience with the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback. The latter in particular is very complementary to the game. There are subtly different vibrations for the different terrains you walk through, with other vibrations for bumping into stuff, driving. There's even a vibration pattern for when it's raining. It's difficult to actually articulate, but it just feels good in your hands. It's like good sound design. It just adds another level of immersion. I didn't care too much for some of the harsh, short vibrations of the original version, and this improves on that a lot. Connecting people to the network in particular is just something else. You can really feel all the dumb bullshit that's happening on the screen. Jokes aside, it does feel very cool. The adaptive triggers were not quite as satisfying. It felt a little more mechanical than I anticipated. It mostly applies to holding your backpack straps with a heavy load or firing weapons. And in both of these cases, I was just trying to quickly press the button, so the extra pressure often barely registered. There's a small window when you first press the button where there's no additional resistance, then you hit a threshold where the resistance actually starts, so it's not that satisfying even when you do notice it. But if you do happen to have a Dualsense, the haptic feedback is pretty nice. As for the new goodies, there's a fair amount to chew on. Everything from new equipment to a new location and new game modes. I mean, look at this hat! You know you want this hat. And if the head crab isn't enough, there are other wearables. We've got new shades, some gloves, and even some new legs. I'm a big fan of the gravity gloves. Being able to zip cargo to you over a short distance or grab some crystals 10 feet away is just a nice bonus. They also added the mazer gun, which is honestly sort of underwhelming. I was excited about it, but it feels fairly flaccid. Though I suppose if you made it too strong, it would make mules a complete joke. Better to just deliver a sweet fucking dropkick. I find it kind of hard to believe that doesn't damage your cargo, but sure. You could also pass through enemy territory without being scanned, stun enemies with a short circuit, or do the same to their vehicles thanks to the new cyberpunk hacks that were introduced. My personal favorite, as subtle as it is the ability to leave your objective marker on the screen. Really seems like it should have been a thing already. There are a couple new structures in the form of the cargo catapult and the jump ramp. The catapult seems very situational to me. I didn't use it much. The ramp, however, is pretty sick. It's essentially a free Superman jump if you're on foot, and of course it works with vehicles too. It's a good way to gain some ground quickly, maybe bypass a big gap or river with some bonus style. It's always a blast finding one of these and busting out some extreme moves. There are a couple of new modes here as well, with a firing range and a racetrack being added. The firing range has various drills that you can run if you're wanting to get some practice in. I've personally never been a huge fan of the combat in this game, so this didn't do much for me. Same goes for the racetrack. It's a neat idea and it's fun for a bit, but the driving mechanics have always been a little weird and they just don't feel like they lend themselves well to a racetrack. There's a few other tidbits like BB pod customization, bonus private room scenes, new deliveries, and buddy bots, but the last big addition is the Ruined Factory. Kojima's really calling back to a certain franchise here, lots of guards in and around a facility that you can fight or eliminate stealthily. The change of setting was very welcome. This game was in desperate need of an interior location that wasn't just some minor variation of a way station or an individual facility. And this place is a sight for sore eyes. It's a gorgeous location, even if fighting mules in cramped spaces felt a little awkward at times. And your reward for making your way through this area is a hologram spouting dialogue at you. This has always been my least favorite aspect of the game by far, but there's also a pretty nice view at the end. Probably the most disappointing thing about playing on PC overall is the state of mods. There is one mod that recolors hair and clothing for various characters, and the rest is pretty much reshades. I'm not exactly sure what the cause is for the lack of mods, but that's how it is, and I don't think that's going to be changing anytime soon. I have relished the excuse to play through this game some more. Going through the campaign was a bit of a slog, but I just love the gameplay so much. And with the director's cut, it's even more fun. If you're on the fence about this one, I say go for it. It brings some new life to an already great game, and if you already own the base version on Steam, it's only $10 for the upgrade. And if you haven't played the game, this video here should shed some light on what it's like. Thanks for watching.